All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our dual enrollment and early college information session here at Southeastern. This is a recorded session and will be broadcast on the Southeastern Facebook. So we're very glad that we have these two programs, and I'm hoping that you will get some information here today that will help you in deciding if dual enrollment or early college is helpful for you or for your students. So let me introduce myself. My name is Mr. Symynkywicz. You can call me Mr. S. It's a lot easier for everybody. I've been running the dual enrollment and early college programs here at Southeastern for about 2 to 3 years. I won't be in this position for much longer, as I'm actually now the administrator of assessment at Southeastern. I still love early college. I still love dual enrollment with all of my heart. And unfortunately, I will be moving on. But we do have my replacement. His name is Mr. Jones, and he will be starting soon, so probably next week. So we're very, very, very proud to have him start. I think he's going to contribute a lot to the program. But I'll still be here if you have any questions, if you have any, anything else about dual enrollment or early college. I'm still the guy to go to, at least for the next week, and then after that, we'll see what happens. Okay, so what are we here to discuss this evening? So there's two programs called dual enrollment and early college high school. Probably want to know what the difference between those two are. And hopefully we'll go through that tonight, and by the end of the night, hopefully you'll understand what is the difference, what is dual enrollment, what is early college high school, and why are they two different programs. We're going to talk about how these programs work. We're going to talk about the responsibilities and expectations of students. We'll talk about accommodations. We'll talk about the timeline and next steps. I think I had, when I put out the form for tonight, a lot of parents were asking, hey, when can my student start? When should they start getting involved in this program? So hopefully we can make that very clear tonight in case whoever wants to join the program can do so. We're going to go through some frequently asked questions, and then if there's any questions from the audience, hopefully I'll have some answers as well. Okay, so let's start with dual enrollment. So dual enrollment classes are college-level classes that are taken after school. So starting at 2:30 in the afternoon and going until about 3:50, usually 2 to 3 days a week, you'll be taking classes at Southeastern with Massasoit professors. So Southeastern and Massasoit Community College, who's our partner, to give our students the best opportunity to earn college credit before completing high school, right? So the entire purpose of dual enrollment and early college high school is to get you ahead on college credit. We obviously, it's great that we have AP classes at Southeastern, but sometimes actually taking an actual class with a professor from Massasoit or from another partner is sometimes the best way to get that taste of the college experience. And so Massasoit, they send their professors after school, and you are able to take those classes with them. Any classes that are passed count as college credits that can be transferred to almost all state institutions and some private institutions, right? So while AP classes have an exam attached to it, at the same time, these classes don't, right? You just have to pass the class and go through the extra classwork in order to do it. And these classes usually begin in the fall of a student's sophomore year. Now, you can start anytime, pretty much outside of your first semester of being a freshman. The only thing with starting in your freshman year is that typically upperclassmen will have seniority over you, right? We do have limited spaces in dual enrollment and early college high school, and so usually we will give our spots priority to those in seniority, right? So if you have a freshman student, it's not the fact that they can't do the work necessarily. It's just the fact that we have to give the spots first to our sophomore students, and then to first our seniors, then our juniors, then our sophomores, and then as freshmen, you get whatever spots are left over. Now, that isn't to say that there aren't spots, and that isn't to say that there isn't the occasional spot that will open up. But I'll talk about that in a little bit when we talk about the Maymester and the summer semesters here. So how does dual enrollment work? So what's the exact timeline? What does this look like for a student at the end of the day? Well, so students stay after school between 2:30 and 3:50 to take classes at Southeastern, right? So this is like a sport, right? This is another extracurricular that you can do at Southeastern in addition to the coursework you're doing here. Students can then take the late bus back home or can be picked up directly at Southeastern. Transportation at Southeastern is an excellent department. They do a lot of wonders. We offer 3 different buses at different times, and they're able to coordinate it. So it's a great opportunity, especially if you don't have a way to get home after school. Classes typically run 2 days a week. It's usually Tuesdays and Thursdays, though occasionally it will be run on Monday, Wednesdays. We do provide free snacks for scholars for students. It's a very long school day when you're taking 5 classes and then you're taking a 6th class after school, plus your shop, plus sports, plus everything else. So we do offer you a snack. If you don't like Rice Krispies or you don't like Pop-Tarts, then we do offer, like water and juice and stuff like that. Or you could bring your own stuff if you want to do that as well. Or if you're culinary, make your own stuff. That's cool too. Spring classes, so we have 3 different semesters that we'll talk a little bit about today. So there are spring classes, which is what you're going to be signing up for now, which usually run between January to May. Fall classes run between September and December. So we are right now in the middle of a semester. And then Maymester classes are accelerated classes that run between May and June. Registration, so right now registration for the spring is open right now. So check my newsletters. If you're not signed up for it, there's a sign up. If you're watching from home, you can pause the video at one point, and there will actually be a QR code that you can scan in order to sign up as well. So you know that there's plenty of opportunities for you to get involved in dual enrollment classes because we have these 3 semesters. We have a lot of students who they play sports, and that's great. I'm a huge fan of sports. You should absolutely do as many extracurriculars as you can. One thing that I really want to emphasize is that you can take your classes in the fall and then do a spring in the sport, or vice versa. You can do your classes in the spring and then take a class in the fall, right? So you can. The best thing about dual enrollment is that you can take 1 of these classes, you can take 4 of these classes, and at the end of the day, you're just earning college credit that looks good on a transcript and looks good on a resume. So with dual enrollment, what type of classes do students take? So what are you taking after school specifically? So usually the first semester is college success and speech. College success is a non-credit bearing class. It is just a good way to get used to the college experience, right? Usually it's Ms. Miles at Massasoit, who's my direct contact, my entourage over there. She's excellent. She will actually teach these classes to the students directly. And what she will do is that she'll break down, this is what you have to do this is how you access Canvas, which is the Massasoit equivalent of Google Classrooms. This is what you need to do in order to write a good paper, a good thesis, right? So she'll help you out with a lot of those different skills, right? It's not a credit-bearing class, but it's going to help you with the rest of the program. And then there's speech, right? Speech is the first credit-bearing class that students take. Why speech, right? Why do we emphasize, like the most awkward class that you can imagine is the first thing that we give our students. The reason for that being is that speech is very practical, right? Communications is becoming very much mandated in a lot of different college pathways, and speech is very practical, right? If you're a tradesperson who is going to do nothing but their trade the rest of their lives, that's great, nothing against that. But speech is going to help you because it's going to help you communicate with making presentations in front of others like I am now, or it's going to help you try to pitch yourself to a future employer. There's a lot of different things that speech can do, and it helps you make those presentation skills, which are honestly you don't necessarily get in a typical high school class, right? So speech is all about that. It's an awkward class at first for some students, but you get over that pretty quickly. Second semester is English Composition 1, which focuses on writing and research, right? Typically, it's really focused on just getting your writing elevated for the college process. Obviously, our English teachers here at Southeastern do a great job and everything like that. I think English Composition 1 is just really just trying to focus it on the college. What are college professors looking at Massasoit, right? So this is just another way in order to just make your writing skills better. Third semester is Film and Society. So we're getting kind of weird, right? We've focused on speech and we focused on writing. Now we're going to Film and Society, right? So Film and Society focuses on the history of film. It usually starts in the early 20th century and goes into the late. Obviously it's something that's just very interesting to a lot of students. It used to be art history. We switched it. The reason that Film and Society is on here is that it is a humanities requirement for early college, high school, which I'll talk about in a second. So the fact that we put that class there simply because it is something that is a humanities requirement. Then the fourth semester is sociology. Sociology is something that we don't typically offer at Southeastern. We offer psychology, we offer AP Psych, but we don't offer sociology. So this is a good way to supplement. Sociology is, again, a requirement for the early college program and the associate's degree, which I'll talk about in a minute. But at the same time, it's something that it's a class we don't offer at Southeastern, and it's usually required in a lot of different academic pathways. And then we offer, usually on different years, we offer human nutrition and French as well. So French is, human nutrition is actually really good for those who are in dental, who want to go into medical assisting. This is a class that's going to be on your academic pathway at these schools that's going to transfer and take care of that requirement. We had 20 students take it last year, and they did exceptionally well. And that's something that's going to really help them out in the long term with their medical careers. Then there's French. French is something we're offering this year, kind of on a trial basis. Hopefully we'll have a lot of students sign up for it. The reason that we offered French is that it's simply, there's always need for more foreign languages, right? A lot of colleges, when students are applying, they're looking for as many languages as you possibly can get, right? We offer Spanish at Southeastern, which is awesome. We offer Spanish also through the early college pathway. We don't offer French, right? We have no pathway that offers that. We also offer Portuguese at Southeastern. So French is just another language that some students want to get involved in. Again, anything that we can do to bolster transcripts and resumes with stuff like this just helps out in the long term. And then why take these classes, right? So what's the entire point, right? Like, I think that obviously if you're watching, you have at least some interest, but like you're not 100% sold. So first of all, it does look good on a transcript or a resume, right? You're taking something that is extracurricular. So for colleges later on, they're always looking for you. How did you challenge yourself, right? And this is a perfect example of how you did that. And then, of course, there is resumes, right? So maybe, you're not really interested in this entire college pathway thing, right? You're a vocational student through and through, and that's great. One thing that this does do on a resume is that, hey, you took college classes as a college student, as a high school student. What's the story behind that? Why did you do that, right? It's just something that bolsters it up. It won't necessarily land you a job. But again, hopefully you're learning some skills through this program in speech and English composition, which are going to help you become more marketable in the future. It's a fulfilling experience, right? Some people don't care about all of that resume and transcript stuff, right? What they care about is like, what am I learning, right? I want to learn as much as I can in high school. So you're taking classes that are not necessarily available at Southeastern, right? So stuff like sociology, stuff like speech. Like we do offer we offer some of this, but again, this is just a good way to solidify whatever you're already doing at Southeastern. The classes are weighted as AP credit, meaning that if you dwell on them, your GPA is going to increase, right? So again, you have to do well, so that's the asterisk there. But at the same time, it's weighted as AP credit. So even if you get a B in the class, it's weighted as though you got an A in the class, right? And this goes on your high school transcript as well. And then the classes transfer to many state schools and many private institutions. Even though this is Massasoit Community College, like a lot of private schools outside of Massachusetts will accept them. It just depends. Massasoit is accredited in whatever sort of type of jurisdiction. So what this does is that a lot of schools look at that jurisdiction and say, okay, we can transfer and we can take that credit. Now, I will also say that not every single thing will transfer. But again, like you'd be surprised at like how many schools will actually accept these credits. And then are there requirements to enter dual enrollment? So you have to be in good academic standing, right? The biggest thing that I want to emphasize here is that you're building a permanent college transcript when you take these classes. When you take dual enrollment classes, you're affecting not only your high school transcript, you're affecting your permanent college transcript. So if you're already struggling with your classes at Southeastern, maybe you want to focus on that first before you get into these classes, right? Because again, we don't want to hurt your transcript. We don't want you to be less marketable because you have a withdrawal on your transcript or something similar, right? So these will affect you, right? So in order to get into early college, we require that you have a C- or better in all of your academic classes and your shop classes too, because that's also important. And then students need to have good attendance. Now, of course, like attendance is something that we usually look a little bit beyond. Obviously, if you've had a medical emergency or there was some type of planned family vacation or something, and you're still on top of your academic work, that's fine, right? We're just making sure that you understand that college professors don't care about your family vacations, and they usually don't care about it. Like, you obviously have to have a doctor's note if you're sick or something. They're a little bit more lenient than that. But what I want to emphasize here, though, is that there's a difference between being absent in a high school class and there's a difference between being absent in a college class. Your college professor may not excuse you. your high school, your teacher are really cool and they'll do that, right? So that's one of those things that you guys have to keep in mind, that attendance means something very different. So that's why we look at that when we're figuring out if you're a good fit for dual enrollment. And then, so this is all dual enrollment. Sorry, these are the after-school classes we're taking after school. What's early college high school, right? And so starting in your junior year, students can start taking classes full-time at Massasoit. So during academic week, students go to Massasoit and take a full course load, 4 courses. These classes replace the traditional high school classes that students would take at Southeastern, right? So what that means is that instead of you taking science and math and history and English at Southeastern, you're instead taking those classes at Massasoit. Students will stay at Southeastern during vocational weeks, right? Again, we're a vocational school, so we still emphasize that. The entire point, though, is that you're taking your classes, your major academic classes at Massasoit, and you're still getting your high school diploma, you're still going towards that. But, as my last sentence is here, you're on your track to get an associate's degree as well, which is in liberal arts transfer. So one question I get asked a lot is, what's a liberal arts transfer degree? It's a very general degree, right? This is not something that, again, it's probably not going to land you many jobs, but what it does is that it's intended to transfer to a future school, right? All the credits that you earn through this program is intended that you will continue your education later on. You can still be satisfied with your associate's degree, and that's something that you could put on your transcript in your resume, and that still looks great. But keep in mind that the way that this is not a technical degree. For example, if you were going to go into the medical sciences, you need to get like an MS. You need to get a very specific medical degree. This isn't something like that. This is something that's very general and broad and all-encompassing. Because we do have a lot of shops. We do have a lot of different types of students at the school, so that's the best that we can kind of fit in, is this very general degree. But it still has a lot of worth. It still has a lot of value. How does it work? All right, so let's get to the nitty-gritty. So students report to Southeastern each morning, so 7:45, that's the warning bell, and then are driven to Massasoit by bus, right? So you get here at 7:45, and then we drive you to Massasoit. Students go about their classes, eat lunch at Massasoit, and then are driven back to Southeastern before 2:30. So the entire point is, usually students get back here about like 1:45, 2 o'clock. And usually that's a good time. I get to talk to them a little bit. They get to talk to their shop teachers, or they get to do whatever business they need to get done around the high school. Or if you have after-school curricular activities, that's a very, very good time to do them as well. Students will also have asynchronous work to do that they need to complete on their shop weeks. So what that means is that typically at Southeastern, your shop weeks and your vocational week, your academic and your vocational weeks are typically separated, right? Usually, whatever work you're doing during your vocational weeks is vocational, and that's it. Once you get into early college, high school, you will have work to do during your vocational weeks, right? And that's the college experience. You're going to have a lot of extra work to do. It's not super, super overwhelming, but you will have, during your shop weeks, you're going to sometimes have to take a test or a quiz. Sometimes you're going to have a project or an essay to work on. So the entire thing, I guess at the end of the day, is that you need to be ready to do a lot more work going into these classes, right? Again, your Southeastern high school teachers, they know the entire setup. Your professors don't, right? Your professors are just going to say, get this done and read this textbook by the end of the week, and that's it. So it's a very big difference between kind of like, again, a professor and a high school teacher. So good. So yeah, and the other thing too is that we just added this here, is the last line, is that if you're in good academic standing, you can drive yourselves directly to Massasoit. So if you live in West Bridgewater or Brockton, Massasoit's right down the street from where you live. So what we added this year is that both juniors and seniors can start driving themselves directly to Massasoit. We always gave that privilege to seniors, but now we are also giving that privilege to juniors as well. Obviously, if you start struggling, we might need you to come back on the bus so we can give you more academic support. But this is something that we want you to get the college experience, and the college experience is not going to Southeastern and then taking a bus, right? The college experience is going directly to Massasoit and taking your college classes there. So what does this cost, right? That's what everybody always says, right? What does all this cost? It's free college? That's right. This doesn't cost anything, right? The only times that you will need to charge you is that if you take something that is out of cohort that we would normally schedule, right? If you fail a class, then you need to pay to retake the class, right? And that does happen. If you're in your early college and let's say that you fail the college algebra, which is the first math class, then it's your responsibility to pay for it. Now, usually we can get it reduced, and usually it's like $180. So it's significantly less than what you normally pay for a college class. But at the end of the day, though, you need to make sure that you understand, like, if you need to retake something, then it's $180. So the other thing, too, to keep in mind here is that if you want to take something that is not on our academic pathway, which I'll show to you in a minute, then you need to pay for it as well, right? The way that our partnership works with Massasoit is that we cohort all of our Southeastern students taking classes together, and we pay for those individual classes. So if you take something else, then, well, unfortunately, there's no way to, we have no way to really pay for that, right? We don't budget for that. Okay. Are there any requirements to enter early college? Yes, there are quite a few. So students need to be in good academic standing during their freshman and sophomore years. You typically need a C- in all classes by the end of your sophomore year. We do really look at that because, again, we want to make sure that when you get to early college in your junior year, you are ready to go, right? You also need to take speech, college success, and English composition in order to join the full-time program. And then there's another thing that is you have to take the math accuplacer, the math and English accuplacers. And these are tests that you can either take at Southeastern, you can take them online. And the entire point is that you're taking a standardized test to get into the program, right? This is a Massasoit requirement. This is not something that we can get around. They used to have certain classes that you could take in order to get into the full-time program, but they got rid of those classes, so the only way that you can get in as a high school student is by taking the accuplacer test at this point. Students will take Film and Society normally during their junior or senior year or during the summer at one point. So the entire point is that you don't have to take Film and Society and Sociology in order to join early college high school. You just need to take speech. You just need to take English composition. So as long as you've taken those 2 dual enrollment classes, then you can get into the full-time program. Now, some of this might change over the course of the next year. Really not in a spot to really unveil anything like that yet, but we might be making some changes to this pathway to make it easier for students as well. So just be on the lookout. There'll be more information, especially since we have a new coordinator coming. So just for now, I'm just going to tell you how we did things in the past, and as things change, we will, of course, update everybody on our newsletter. Okay, responsibilities and expectations, right? Students are expected to do college-level work while both in dual enrollment and early college high school, right? College-level work, right? Which means that if a professor asks you to write 6 pages on something, you write 6 pages, right? You don't write a paragraph and say, well, that gets the entire idea across, right? You have to kind of abide by their guidelines. They are the masters of their own little universe, and there's nothing that anybody can really do about that, not even me. So if they tell you to write something, if it's too overwhelming, well, that's too bad. And that's sometimes a little bit unfair. Sometimes it's not the best thing, and sometimes you're going to really struggle with some professors. But at the same time, though, they are teaching you in order to get better at something. Attendance is mandatory in all college-level classes. So like we discussed before, they don't have the same leniency towards tardiness or absence. The classes you take, though free or cost, are a responsibility, as the classes will affect your high school and college transcript. I put this in blood red at the bottom. Failing or withdrawing from a college class may affect future consideration for financial aid. Yes, so you have to take, so obviously the way that FAFSA works is that you need to have at least I think it's 66.6% success rate in your college classes in order to get future financial aid. So if you fail, let's say that you withdraw or you fail from your first speech class, that's a 0% pass rate, right? Which means that might have an effect on FAFSA in the future. Now, you can retake a class and that'll remediate that and make it go away. But you just have to keep in mind that, I think I went ahead, sorry. I'm very bad at that. So it's really important to know that if you fail or withdraw from a class, it will have an effect on you in the future. So make sure that you're taking these classes very seriously. Most students, and I don't want to make you afraid either, most students do exceptionally well in this program. And I'll give you some statistics in a little bit. But I just really want to emphasize this last line that if you don't take this seriously, you have to withdraw, then there might be consequences later on. Okay. Accommodations. At the beginning of each semester, we do review IEP and 504 plans of each student and communicate with their professors what accommodations would apply to their classes. This is a dual enrollment. I should specify this here. So in dual enrollment, the classes here at Southeastern, we do all the communicating with the professors. So that way, if you are an IEP or a 504, we'll make sure that's communicated with the professor. And then we'll communicate with parents and students throughout the semester if we see issues with grades or attendance. What happens is that Southeastern or other professors will reach out to us, me, or Mr. Jones directly, and then we will communicate that directly back to parents and families, right? We do want to make sure you do well in these classes, so we will get your parents involved if necessary. All dual enrollment and early college classes have access to Massasoit tutoring and the writing centers. So if you feel like you're really struggling, like, I don't really get this, like, I don't know how to construct a persuasive speech, then there are definitely, and you don't feel comfortable going to your professor or another student for help, then you do have access to online tutoring at Massasoit. It's a great thing. Our students use it all the time. I would say about 60% of students use it, and they have some success in it. So keep in mind, just use everything that you need in order to get through these classes at the end of the day. Okay. One thing about accommodations, do I talk about this in the next slide? I don't. Okay. One thing about accommodations at Massasoit, if you do the early college program, it is your responsibility to talk directly to Massasoit. Again, anything that happens with dual enrollment stays here, and we are able to control it. But anything that happens at Massasoit, you need to talk to, I believe it's the Department of Disabilities there in Massasoit, and they will actually be the ones who will create all those letters and stuff for your professors. Let's talk about that once you get into early college, high school. But at the end of the day, though, like, just make sure that you understand that we do our best to give all students access to these early college and dual enrollment classes. Okay. So timeline and next steps. So that's something that I think a lot of students are really curious about. If you're new to the program, we recommend that your student signs up for spring classes. Preliminary registration has already begun. I think in the next slide, we'll figure this out. I have to figure out my order of my slides. What will happen is that preliminary registration has already begun. Look at my newsletters or Mr. Jones's newsletters, and that'll have the registration information. We also promote through the principal's newsletters, so just make sure you're looking for those as well. So like, these classes fill up pretty quickly, so just make sure that you are always on the lookout for those emails. So if you're not interested in joining that right now, then the next email for the summer classes will be going out sometime in April or so. So again, just be on the lookout. Always read those emails. We send reminders. We do everything we can. We have these information sessions. Just make sure that you are looking through your email for important data like this. And usually we send out at least one newsletter every month. You will need to sign up with Massasoit at one point between now and the end of the spring classes. So if you're a new student, you will need to actually become a student of Massasoit. So you will actually have to put an application in with them at one point. Dual enrollment spring classes begin in late January. So when we say spring semester, it doesn't mean the spring with bunny rabbits and flowers and everything. No, it's the cold dark of winter. That's the spring semester. There is also a Maymester, which is between May to June. But yeah, honestly, the spring, I don't know why they call it spring. They don't call it winter or like February classes. I don't know. We call it spring, though it starts in January. So during the spring semester, your student will take the AccuPlacer test if you haven't already taken it. You can always take the AccuPlacer home from free as well. That was an effect of COVID. A lot of these tests are now online. You can take them from home. There's a test monitor there to make sure you're not cheating. And you can just take it there, and then you report your scores back to me, and that's that. Or Massasoit will report them as well. So it's something it's great. We also are offering the AccuPlacer here next month. I believe it's the 1st of November and the 4th of November. It's become a more important test because there aren't those preliminary classes to get into early college, high school anymore. And then by the end of your sophomore year, we recommend that students have taken speech, English composition, and possibly film and society or sociology. Again, the important thing is speech and English composition because those classes are required for early college, high school. Okay. This is our course pathway. There is a lot to look at over here, but there's a lot of good information for those at home. You can pause the video and take a look at all the different courses that we're offering. So obviously the classes up here at the top are dual enrollment classes. This is what we offer through here. So we have nutrition, French, film and society, sociology, all the stuff we've talked about tonight. And then these are the junior year classes in blue. And it's a lot of this is stuff that you'll see at Southeastern, right? College algebra, Spanish, English composition 2, US history, and then government, geology, or biology, depending on your academic pathway, American literature, right? And then we have a statistics class. So this little semester right here is known as the Maymester. If you're behind in classes, that's a great time to get stuff done. So usually that's the makeup where students really, if you want to be as set up as you can be in your senior year. So having all of the other prerequisites done are almost a must. So that way, when you get into your senior year, you can focus on college applications and you can focus on probably pre-calculus, which will make you tear out your hair. But anyway, so this is our pathway. I think that there's a couple things to keep in mind here about this, is that this is a liberal arts pathway, right? So it doesn't really get into advanced mathematics. We go to pre-calculus, which is a difficult enough class, but there's no calculus on here, right? The sciences these are college level lab sciences, so they're difficult, but there's no like chemistry on this, right? There's no physics on this. So just keep that in mind, that there are some limitations of what we offer in this program, because this is very much a liberal arts pathway. Okay, and we have to do that in order to appease both the state of Massachusetts and to get you an associate's degree by the time you get out of here. Okay, statistics. I love this is the happy time, right? So we get to talk about how successful the program's been. So we had 26 seniors graduate with their associate's degree last year in May. Very proud of them. They did exceptionally well. Some of them went to Northeastern. Some of them went to Bridgewater. Some of them they're all over the country, right? Some of them went to the University of Richmond. So there's a lot of really good stuff that comes out of this program, right? So we had 26 students who graduated, and I think 24 of the 26 are going to be continuing in college this year. 45 seniors are on track to get their associate's degree this year, so 2025. Very excited. That's our biggest class yet. Very excited for that. There are 44 juniors in the full-time early college program. You're probably wondering why. Well, I wasn't supposed to let 45 in to begin with, is probably a good answer. But anyway, so 44 juniors this year, and there are about 100 students taking dual enrollment classes right now, actively, right? It depends on the semester. The spring semester, we typically get like 125. It's a much bigger semester. I guess there are less sports and stuff going on. Then the biggest thing I want to emphasize at the bottom is that if you don't do the entire early college thing, that's perfectly fine too. Countless other students have graduated with college credits that they can use towards degrees at schools throughout Massachusetts, as well as some private institutions, right? So if you decide just to do dual enrollment and stick here and do AP classes or honors classes, that's fantastic, right? One thing that I always emphasize here is that the professors at Massasoit, they're professors, they aren't necessarily there to teach you. They are there to deliver curriculum. That's literally a quote from a professor. High school students here, the high school teachers here are incredible, right? I want to emphasize that you can get a very good education sticking at Southeastern, and I really want to emphasize that. This is just another pathway you can take, right? And there are no bad answers here. So just do your best. And at the end of the day, if you want to do AP classes and then you want to supplement them with dual enrollment, or if you want to take standard classes here at Southeastern and you want to take these dual enrollment classes, you can do that as well. There's no bad way to do this, right? This is just another great opportunity for you to just kind of maximize who you are and what your potential is. Okay, some potential statistics from previous graduates. So overall impression of the early college program. So these are my seniors, I think from 2 years ago. I have to get the new data from the seniors this year. But the entire point, though, is that they said, 53% of them said they strongly liked it, right? About 30% said they liked it, and then the other, 11%, they had neutral feelings towards it, right? But that's good. I mean, about 87% said, hey, they liked it or they strongly liked it, which is great, right? And then the other 12% is like, it's just more work to do, right? And then at the end, then if you look over here, this will tell you how other universities accepted their credits from Massasoit, right? And we're seeing about 65% of students, colleges are taking about 64% of colleges are taking all or most of those credits, right? Some credits, and then, it depends, right, what you're going to be doing. I think this person right here that said no credits, they ended up going into underwater welding, so a hyper-specific trade where your liberal arts degree has no bearing, right? So it depends what you really want to do, and it depends what you want to do with your vocation as well. But I guess that these statistics at least show that this program does have a lot of success, especially if you do want to go to college after Southeastern. So we'll get to questions that we have in our audience, but here's some frequently asked questions just in case you're curious. Can I do both dual enrollment classes and other after-school activities like sports and clubs? The answer is a little bit complicated, right? So balancing activities like sports and dual enrollment classes can be challenging. Because the classes meet after 2 days a week, so 2:30 to 3:30, they might often interfere with sports. Sports have games, they have practices, and it's really, really difficult for your coach if you're not showing up 2 days a week. So it's not their fault if they say you can't balance both. You can try to talk to them and see if they're willing to let you go to these 2 days a week. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to choose one, right? And I hate to say you have to choose it. Again, maybe we'll make some tinkerings to this program where someday we can offer something during the school day. Again, that's not necessarily ever going to happen. But at the end of the day, though, we want to make sure that you understand that you do have other options in terms of you can always take a sport too. And like I said earlier in the presentation, you can do a sport in one season, and then you can take your classes in the other. Another thing is, when can I join? Right, that's a very frequently asked question. If you want to scan the QR code, there's one outside in the lobby. You can just scan that there. You don't have to scan this big screen up here in the SPAC. But if you are at home, you can scan this, and if you can sign up for spring classes if you want to. And the biggest thing is, read our newsletters because it'll go over information about early college, but it'll also give you dual enrollment signups as well. I think another thing too to just go over this, early college, how do I sign up for that, right? Because that's in my junior year. How do I make sure that I'm on your radar for that? We will have signups at the second half of your sophomore year and the second half of your junior year. We will have signups open, and then we'll kind of discuss what you need to provide for us then, right? Last year, we actually had a very robust application process where we asked you to go to your academic teachers, and we asked you to go to your shop teachers, and we asked you to go to your guidance counselor to get signatures and everything. That might change this year, so I don't want to the next coordinator might do something completely different. But I guess the entire point, though, is that around January to February, be on the lookout for more information about early college high school and the signups for that. Okay. The other thing, too, is we have an ultra cool newsletter. So make sure that this is another QR code for us at home. Or you can send me an email if you have my email address just to make sure you're on the newsletter. If you're here in the audience, then you can also, there's a sign-up sheet. If you're on the sign-up sheet, I'll make sure you're added. If you're not already on the newsletter, I'll make sure that I add you onto it. Okay. So what if a student wants to withdraw from the program? So let's say you take these classes, you're like, I've got a lot of life stuff going on right now. I can't handle this, right? Which has happened, right? This is more academic stuff at the end of the day. So what we usually say is try to finish the semester you're in. Again, that entire FAFSA thing and the entire thing that you'll have a withdrawal in your transcript. We usually try to say try your best to finish the semester you're in. And if you really need to withdraw, you can withdraw. That's not an issue. The only thing, though, is that if you do withdraw in the middle of a class, you do get a W on your transcript for withdrawal. And again, it's not a failure. It doesn't impact your GPA at all, but it is on your transcript. The other thing, too, is that always try to get tutoring, talk to your professor. They're not totally evil, as I've made them out to be, but talk to your professors. If you're really confused on something, or if you need an extension or on a deadline or something similar, talk to them. They're willing to at least try to help you and try to nudge you in the right direction. The biggest thing is communication, I guess, and that's why we start off with speech class, is that communication is super, super important. And you want to make sure that you're doing that with a coordinator. You want to make sure that you're also communicating with the professors as well. Okay. How do these college credits transfer to other schools? I hinted that a little bit earlier in the presentation. Most state schools will accept most of, if not all, the credits. So some students will shave off 1.5 to 2 years of college, which is pretty fantastic. Some might only shave off a semester. Some programs will accept half of the credits, right? It's really going to be dependent on the school and the program that you're going into. The more specific a program gets, the less the credits are going to probably transfer. Because again, we're giving you something that's very, very broad, and we're trying to stuff it into something very specific. So, I mean, I've talked to UMass Boston, I've talked to Bridgewater, and again, they're willing to take the credits, but they may just not have bearing on your program at the end of the day. It really depends what you're trying to do. Regardless, the challenge of the classes will help distinguish you from other students when you apply to different schools. That's important to note, is that early college is that a lot of these schools do value these classes as challenging coursework. Maybe they're not quite as difficult as AP, but they are definitely something that is challenging, and you definitely show that on your transcript, right? You're also taking more classes than typical students would usually take. Students will also, yeah, I already said that last sentence, so we can continue on. And where do students have the most difficulty? That's something that I hear a lot about. It's usually at the beginning of dual enrollment and the beginning of early college, high school, and pre-calculus, but let's not talk about that. The most withdrawals that we typically get are, it's usually early on when students are just not used to the 5th class for dual enrollment, right? You're taking 4 classes at Southeastern, you've got shop, and then you're taking another class after school. It's a lot, it's very overwhelming, and then students, they get into, they did really well in their sophomore year, they did really well in their freshman year, they start taking a dual enrollment class, it's like, oh, all of a sudden this is a lot more than I expected, right? So that's usually the most difficulty, and that's when we're really, really careful with students, that they know that they have to get tutoring, they have to get whatever they can get in order to get through these classes. So keep in mind too is that some classes have less allowance on absences. College Success, which I talked about earlier, it's not a credit-bearing class, but you get 1 absence. It only meets 4 times the entire semester, so that's not long. But at the end of the day, you'll have 1 absence. If you are absent twice, then you fail or withdraw from the class. So just keep that in mind, is that it's usually, for most students, the most difficulty that people have is at the very beginning of the semester, when you're really getting used to that uptick in work that you normally would have. Okay, so last food for thought. I've been talking, my amazing audience has been wonderful, but we have to say adieu. So, and then I'll open this up to a question, but a couple quotes. So the first, these are from a couple students who graduated recently. One of them said, "I feel like this is an amazing option for Southeastern students. I'm grateful every day that I made the choice to do early college, high school. I gained a lot of independence, learned an awful lot about college and its subject matter, and made many meaningful friendships. I feel that this program helped shape me into the person I am today, and I'm forever grateful for it." So what's important about this quote, and I think that one thing I want to emphasize, is that it's not always about the credit or making yourself look better or anything like that. Sometimes it's about that independence, right? That's really the value in this, is that you really get to take control of your education. You get to be treated like a college student. That's the real value of it, because when you get into your 4-year program after you're done with Southeastern, or you get to go on to a job, at the end of the day, it's going to be, the rest of life is about independence. It's about doing things yourself and figuring out the path forward, right? And early college, I think, really does a great job teaching our students just that. And then the second quote is, "I love the program and every step it gave me, as well as the independence that I gained from it. I'm very prepared to start college," right? So again, that's the emphasis, is starting, like, getting you a head start on getting into college. And again, the college credit helps, but it's also about those soft skills, right? Learning to be an independent person. All right, that's it for my presentation. Do we have any questions from our studio audience today? All right. Great. Well, I hope I didn't scare anybody. This is a great program. It's something that we do. I think we do a wonderful job offering at Southeastern. So it's really been a pleasure to be a part of this program for as long as I have been. And I look forward to working with our new coordinator as they start soon. All right, that's it. All right, thank you. So if you have any questions, you can come after me after too. So.